Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the painting process. So as you can imagine, I get a lot of questions about this. I know I cover various parts of the process in various videos, but I generally don't do the whole thing in one video. So I often get people sending me, hey Brad, here are the steps that I'm going to take. Does this sound right? And sometimes it's like, okay, you've got your primer and one other thing mixed up, or yeah, that sounds perfect. Or occasionally it's something along the lines of like, so is it 3 chickens or 4 I need to sacrifice to get a full gloss? So yeah, there are some confused people out there. So let's talk about what steps you need to take and when, and hopefully this will clear things up for you. I really wish I had like a whiteboard in here or something, but I don't. So just generally here, and it doesn't really matter what you're painting per se here. I'm not going to go into the different types of paint, but what you've got is your raw surface, whether it's wood or metal or anything. The first thing you need to do is any filling. So if it's grain filling or if it's filling holes and stuff, that's step one, get that done. Once your filler is done, and this is assuming paint and not some kind of dye or stain, once your filler is done, you need to prep your surface for the paint. So in the context of a metal, that's going to be a primer. In the context of wood, you're going to go with your sealer now. All right, this is usually for a primer, a couple coats, for a sealer, maybe 3 or 4, and then you're going to let that dry and sand it smooth so you've got a beautiful surface to paint on. Pretty straightforward so far, right? Once you get to the painting part, this is where you do your color. Now, sometimes it's going to be a single color, and sometimes it's going to be more complicated than that. Of course, if you're doing 2 colors, do your first one, let it dry, tape, do your second one. If you're doing a multi-layer thing, do your ground coat first, let that dry, and then go on with your, your candy color or whatever your top coat happens to be in that case. Once that's done, it's time for your clear coat. So you've already got your sealer, you've prepped everything for paint, you've done your color work, whether it's just color or ground coat, top coat, whatever the system happens to be for that, depending on what effect you're looking for and what paint you're using. And now you need to protect all that with a clear. Now let's keep in mind that whether it's clear, color, primer, whatever, there's almost no type of paint where you need to sand between every coat. So don't think that you need to sand between every coat. It's not a thing. Some people will tell you to sand between every coat. That's cute, whatever works for them. But if it's, for example, a lacquer, it's gonna melt into itself, so you don't have to sand unless you have an imperfection that you need to remove. And if you're spraying something like a polyurethane, for example, you're gonna build that thing up about 3 or 4 coats at a time. You're gonna do it within flash time, so 10 to 15 minutes apart. Then you're gonna let that dry for 24 hours, and then you sand. So you sand between sessions, not coats. Same applies for your clear. Depending on the type of paint you're using, you're going to use different amounts of clear. With a polyurethane, I would generally use about 3 coats, and with lacquer, more like 8. And after clear, there's only one thing left to do. It's the polishing process. I've done several videos detailing how that works, but essentially you're going to want to sand it flat with a relatively high grade of sandpaper so that you're not accidentally going through it. Then sand it as smooth as you can, so you step up a couple grits until you make it to, I like to do somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 typically, so it's easy to polish. And then you do the polishing part. So whether that's a single step system like the Norton liquid ice, a 2-step system, even a 3 like the 3M, you go through that process. You start with your coarse stuff, your compound, and then you move on to your polish and your scratch remover, swirl remover rather. And that's that. That's the whole process. That's really all there is to it. So there you have it, guys. Filler, sealer or primer, paint, clear, polish. Done. That's all there is to it. If you're doing oil or you're doing a stain or a dye, that's a little bit of a different thing. Maybe we'll cover that in a separate video, but for now, that's the process. Follow it and hopefully you will have success. Questions? Drop them in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.